They were truly a victim, but now they get stuck in victim mentality, victim thinking. They always feel helpless and hopeless, even though they're not. And so it comes out of the defeat in a child's soul that comes out of complex trauma, that helplessness and hopelessness that they legitimately have, that then carries on into adult life. To me, this is such a big issue that comes out of complex trauma that a lot of people aren't even aware of, or they don't know how to explain it when they see learned helplessness in their loved ones. So let me begin with just what is learned helplessness? So the definition: learned helplessness is a psychological state where a person comes to believe that they have no control over their situation, even when opportunities to change it exist. So because of past experiences where nothing they did seemed to make a difference, they stop trying altogether. They learn to feel helpless. So they were actually helpless earlier in life. That then results in them gradually beginning to think they're always helpless. So they learn helplessness. So let me give you some examples. Many of you may know somebody that's in an abusive relationship, and they don't leave the relationship, and you quiz them on that. Why aren't you leaving? And it's they feel helpless to live the relationship to improve their life. They stay in an abusive relationship, even though there's options to leave it. They just feel helpless to take those options. Or many of you have someone in your life who, no matter what you ask them to do, they always come up with an excuse for why they can't do it. So they act like they're willing to do it, they want to do it, but there's always an excuse why they can't do it. Or you have a family member who refuses to do something if it involves hard work, learning new skills, or possible failure. So hard work, new skills, possible failure, too scary, too difficult, no, can't do it. So they settle for the status quo, staying where they're at, which is a less than desirable life. Or someone in your life, you can ask them to do a job and repeatedly they say, no, I can't. I don't know how. Can you do it for me? And the reality is they've never tried to learn. They've never tried to get the skills. So that it's always this, I can't do it. I don't know how, but they never try to learn how. So there's a learned helplessness. Or somebody in your life where you want them to use a smartphone or a computer. No, I'm too old. I can't learn. It's just too hard. And so they, again, stop, refuse to learn anything, to put themselves out there, to try to gain skills. It's a learned helplessness. Or a child who, growing up, repeatedly failed spelling tests. And so they just gradually come to the conclusion they're always going to fail spelling tests. The reason is they're too stupid. So they give up studying. They give up trying to learn. They don't go to college, university. It's just, no, I'm too stupid. I'm too stupid. Or somebody who, as a teen, repeatedly tries to make friends and they always get turned down, betrayed, rejected. And so they just get to the point that nobody wants to be my friend. There's no point trying to be a friend. So I will just isolate. I'm not even going to socialize anymore. They stay trapped now in this loneliness, but they feel helpless to change it. So what I hope you're seeing is that this often shows up in kind of relationship issues, especially abusive relationships, where a person they know it's abusive, but they feel trapped. They don't feel they can get help. They don't feel they can leave. They feel they don't deserve something more than that. And so they stay stuck in this very unhealthy situation. Or sometimes we see it in people who are in extreme poverty, where there are opportunities if they did get skills, if they did try for different jobs, but they just feel, no, I can't do that. I can't learn that. No, everybody will say no to me. So they stay stuck in very, very severe poverty. Or work and school. So after a number of failures in childhood, it's basically why strive anymore to get ahead, to learn, to get a better job, to succeed in a career. I've been rejected so many times. I failed so many times. It's not worth it. I'm convinced I'm not capable. And so there's a learned helplessness there. Or for some with mental health or chronic health issues where they've tried and tried to get help, nothing seems to be working. So they just give up trying and just go, oh, I guess I'm stuck here. And in some cases they might be, but in some cases they are not. They just have been so defeated by the many attempts and the constant failures at not work that they just go into this very helpless situation. So all of us probably have people in our life that are like that. And so you relate to what we're talking to. Maybe you see some of it in yourself. Where does it come from? And this is where I want you to understand that learned helplessness to me comes out of complex trauma. So complex trauma is a child is in a situation where their needs aren't being met. They're being hurt. So they've got this ongoing pain that they can't resolve. They try to get their needs met, nothing works. They try to get rid of the pain, nothing works. They try all kinds of healthy solutions, nothing works to resolve the pain. So they're in this environment that they can't control, that is very painful and negative. And so they get to the point where they feel not just helpless, but hopeless, because no matter what they try, it doesn't work. So that child was truly a victim. But what can happen is they begin to believe that they never will have agency for the rest of their life, that they always will fail, that nothing they try will work. So they were truly a victim, but now they get stuck in victim mentality, victim thinking. They always feel helpless and hopeless, even though they're not. And so it comes out of the defeat in a child's soul that comes out of complex trauma, that helplessness and hopelessness that they legitimately have, that then carries on into adult life. Another way to look at that, or another piece to that, would be the child who is repeatedly trying to do something, to learn a skill, but nobody's helping them, to solve a problem, but nobody's helping them. And they fail. Repeated failure. And so they refuse now to try because I'm going to fail anyways. Nothing I've ever done has worked. So that can happen. But then what can happen for some people is every time they now face a situation and the fear of failure and I can't do it happens, they then ask somebody to do it for them. So if somebody offers to do it for them, they go, well, why do I need to learn these skills? But somebody's going to do it for me now. And that reinforces, I don't need to learn agency. I don't need to learn skills. Somebody's enabling me to stay in this helpless state, so I will stay here. And that reinforces that. Now, just as an aside, psychologist Martin Seligman first described this learned helplessness in an experiment he did with dogs. And to me, it was a cruel experiment, but I don't want you to get kind of hung up on that. I want you to see kind of what came out of the experiment. So he exposed dogs to shock, and they couldn't escape the shock. They were in a cage, they were shocked, they couldn't escape. And so after a while, they just gave up trying to escape. So they just got shocked and shocked. So then when they opened the door to the cage, they kept shocking the dogs, but the dogs didn't escape. They had learned there's no escape. There's nothing. I'm helpless. This is hopeless. Just shut down. Just endure the pain. There's nothing I can do about it. And so that, to me, is what happens with humans. That's what we're talking about. And so once you've tried and tried to escape a problem or resolve a problem and you can't, you get to a point where you just stop trying new solutions. You stop seeking help. You just say, tolerate it, put up with it, abusive relationship, dead-end jobs, personal stagnation. There's absolutely nothing. So that's what complex trauma does. There's another element here that comes out of complex trauma. If you look at those dogs, they were punished or harmed, and they hadn't done anything wrong. And that's what happens to many children in complex trauma. And they try to fix it, they try to escape the problem, and it doesn't, nothing helps. So you eventually go to just tolerate it. And what I want you to see is that's kind of the ultimate freeze. You stop fight or flight. That doesn't work. You can't fight or flight. So let's shut down. Let's accept. Let's freeze. Let's dissociate. And so it's the ultimate in trying to survive, in trying to cope with unresolvable situations. For many people today, after repeatedly failing at trying to resolve situations, they now have a deep fear of failure. And so as soon as they're in a new situation, so they're going through a change, they got a new opportunity, this fear of failure kicks in, and that immediately triggers feelings of helplessness, feelings of hopelessness. This is not going to go right. And so it's, okay, I can't do it. They get overwhelmed in their limbic brain with fear, the possible fear of failure, and that drives them back into, I am helpless. For some, what they've realized over time is all my energy is now put into surviving to try and get one thing done that's positive. I just don't have the energy. It's too hard. And so they just go to, it's not worth the effort. I just don't have the energy. A learned helplessness can come out of just being so overwhelmed that anything that takes hard work is just too much. Then, just to be fair to all of this, there's some kids that just develop this laziness and they get away with it. Oh, it's too hard, I don't feel like it, and somebody does it for them. And that leads to a learned helplessness. So what I want you to see is underneath all of this, what is deeper than this, is there's a deep shame that's developed in this child. That core belief that I will fail at everything I do. And so they've believed these core lies and this strong inner critic that basically you're a failure, you can't do anything right, nothing you do works. Look at, that wasn't perfect, so it's not good enough. And they just got this constant putting them down, which drives them back into feeling helpless and hopeless. That shame also is anybody that sees me is probably going to reject me, is probably going to judge me, is probably going to want to punish me or hurt me. So never put yourself out there. Never try anything new where you might fail, because failure always leads to more pain. Some even, their shame is just accept this terrible life. You don't deserve a better life. So don't even try to change. You're not worth the effort. And so you can see how this shame that comes out of complex trauma just drives the person to deeper sense of helplessness and hopelessness. Another component to this that comes out of complex trauma is children that had a very harsh authority figure, very critical authority figure, or an unpredictable authority figure parent. So they grew up with parents who just criticized their actions, punished them for bad actions, but never taught them good actions, never role modeled for them good behavior. And so it didn't matter what they did, they got criticized for. Didn't matter what they did, they got punished for. There was always something wrong with it. After a while, give up. Anything you try, you're going to get punished for. And so that parent now is the internal critic in their head. Now, whenever they want to change, whenever they want to try something new, whenever they want to learn a new skill, that parent's voice is in their head, their internal critic. You're going to fail. You can't do anything right. And it drives them to this deep sense of helplessness. Some, they learn to play being helpless because it got them attention. It got people to come and rescue them. It got all those people with just as much shame who were trying to get positive validation by rescuing people to come to their rescue and do everything for people. And that they learned to manipulate people to get everybody to do stuff for them. And it worked for a while. And now that's so deeply ingrained in them that they don't want to become responsible, because then they won't get attention anymore in their minds. And so they remain helpless. Some, their shame caused them to, if I get other people to serve me, that feels good. That makes me superior. And so they're trying to solve their shame by getting others to serve them. So they played helpless in order to get that positive supply of people serving them and the power it gave them, the superiority feelings it gave them as a solution. Many people today coming out of complex trauma have done a lot of work to heal. But as soon as life starts to get very difficult, so they go through a patch where it's very overwhelming, just one stressful situation after another piled on top of each other, they can go through a couple of days where they're just frustrating. They're trying to be healthy. They're trying to resolve situations. Nothing's working right. And in a heartbeat, they can go back to feeling hopeless and helpless again. And that's because of all the complex trauma that they can go from hopeful to hopeless in a day because their hope got beat out of them in the past to such an extreme that they can go there quickly when their life gets very stressful. One final thing. Many people with complex trauma develop what I call complex trauma math. And that's basically I was helpless as a child to resolve anything, therefore I'm always helpless. My history as a child is 100% proof that I am incapable, I am helpless, life is hopeless. So if it's true in my child 100%, then it's true in my adult life 100%. They don't factor in that I was helpless and hopeless because the authority figures in my life weren't supporting me or teaching me, were the cause of the problem. They just see everything was on me. It was all my responsibility. I failed, so I will always fail. So that distorted thinking can keep them very much in a helpless mindset. So what are some signs that you might have this helpless mindset? It's if you walk around and you face new situations, you go, what's the point? It won't work anyways. So there's just this, you quickly go to this deep hopelessness whenever you face challenges. Or you quickly give up when the first setbacks you face, the first obstacles you hit, oh, I'm done. Or you let yourself remain stuck or passive in very bad, harmful situations. Or you just live with that deep shame and you're aware of it, that low self-esteem that says, I'm not competent, I'm not worth it, and you just stay there. Or you just realize that you don't try to improve your situation. That's not good, even though there are opportunities and options available to improve it. So if those apply to you, then it's okay. There's some learned helplessness in your thinking. So sometimes people go, well, why, what's so wrong about it? Well, it keeps you stuck and unhealthy. And that might have some positives right now for you, but it's going to slowly have more and more negatives. You're going to hurt yourself and the people you love. The people you love are gradually going to pull away from you because you're not willing to deal with your stuff, to change. And you're going to prevent yourself from many positive opportunities that could be available to you. But I think there's another piece here that many people, the longer they stay in feeling powerless and helpless, the more it negatively affects their mental health. It feeds into depression. It feeds into anxiety. It doesn't remain stagnant. It's gradually building in the mental health area. So what do you do about it? Get help for your complex trauma. And that includes get help for your shame. Understand where all of this comes from in your life, the thinking that goes with it, the emotions that goes with it, the limbic brain dominance that's part of that. Begin healing those wounds. Begin changing that thinking. That is such an important piece to this. Then, for many people, what they have to do is to take a task. Let's say they want to accomplish something, and that just seems too much, too hard. You got to break it down into baby steps, into 1,000 little steps, so that you have small successes. You have many accomplishments. You can develop agency. You can say, oh, I can do something. I can make a difference. And gradually you begin to build your agency, your resilience, so that you're able to say, I can take my power back. I can put myself out there. With that, there's a cognitive reframing that has to happen. You got to confront the lies that I can't do anything right. There's no options. It's not worth it. Nothing I do matters. All of those things that you've gradually, subtly believed, you have to be able to challenge. Then you got to challenge that internal critic that throws those things at you every time and challenge the complex trauma math that comes with that. All of that is regaining control of your life. I refuse to be a victim to my circumstances, to other people's decisions. I will stand up for myself. I respect myself enough to fight for myself, to regain control of my life, my decisions, my safety. But you have to reach out for some support. You need help to be able to pull this off. I hope that helps. I hope that if you have learned helplessness, that you will begin to take the steps necessary to break that. Because the longer you stay in it, the more painful it's going to get. Thank you again. Have a great day. Hi again. If you found any of this video to be helpful, it would mean so much if you would like, subscribe, make a comment. And if you know somebody else that would benefit from this video, that you would share it with them. That just tells the YouTube algorithms that people are finding this to be helpful material, and then they'll suggest it to others, and it will help even more people. So thank you again for being part of what we're doing. Just wish you the best on your healing journey.